Nearly 2,000 police are on standby for a week of protests outside Heathrow Airport. Environmental activists have been gathering at what they're calling Camp Climate in a protest against the pollution caused by air travel. Downing Street has warned protesters that any disruption of the airport would be unacceptable. Daniel Bircher is at Heathrow now. Daniel.
George, we're about half a mile from the airport here. You can perhaps just see the control tower over my shoulder there. There are only a few hundred demonstrators here at the moment, but this is very well organised and they expect several thousand in the coming days. Airport authorities, though, say they're determined not to let this disrupt passenger services.
Police have been on site, drafted in from 4 forces. A large presence around the camp too, checking people and vehicles as they arrive. Road access has been closed, only a few vans allowed nearer after searches. But that hasn't stopped demonstrators bringing in supplies, everything, including the kitchen sink. And this is why they're here, protesting against the expansion of aviation and its environmental impact.
Do you want to pass some of that stuff over for me, Rihanna?
This family came from Shropshire to join the protest, bringing enough food for a week and their 4 young children.
They're the ones that are going to feel the effect of climate change, and they're the ones that are going to have to pick up the pieces if we don't sort it out now. At least make a start, you know, so they should come along and find out more, really.
Airport authorities say at a time of heightened security the protest is irresponsible. Some demonstrators claim they've been searched under anti-terrorism measures and say the police approach has been heavy-handed.
All officers have been briefed to use their powers robustly, but they must be lawful and they must be proportionate. Now, we will use public order legislation to police public order, and we will use counter-terrorist legislation to deal with counter-terrorism.
Heathrow is already the world's busiest international airport, and next March a new terminal will be opened. Then there are proposals for a 3rd runway. It's on part of the site where that could eventually be built that the demonstrators have set up their camp.
We recognise their legitimate concerns about climate change, but equally we've seen in their past demonstrations that they have interfered with operational issues.
The demonstrators say this will be peaceful. They plan what they call mass direct action later in the week, but won't say what that will involve. Daniel Bircher, BBC News, Heathrow.
Well, the protesters are clear about the damage the massive increase in air travel is doing to the environment. But what about the advantages in jobs and economic growth? John Moylan has been looking at the costs and the benefits of taking to the skies.
Once upon a time, a trip to Heathrow was a day out. This was August '53, an open day at what was London Airport. Within a decade, the era of mass affordable travel would arrive. Today, 68 million people travel through here each year. Heathrow is one of the world's main international airports, but it's vitally important for the UK economy too. It's thought to boost it by up to £5 billion a year. Now, part of that is down to jobs. Heathrow alone employs around 70,000 people. But it's thought that another 100,000 jobs right across the UK are due in part to what happens right here.
Air travel is important for the UK economy, both directly as a major employer of over 500,000 people, as a direct contributor to the gross domestic product. It's well over 1% of GDP comes directly from aviation. But more important than that, it's what makes it possible for foreign investors to invest in all kinds of areas in the UK.
And air travel is booming. 235 million people passed through the UK in 2006. That was up 50% in just 10 years. Those numbers could hit 500 million in a matter of decades. So don't travellers care about the impact upon the environment?
My consciousness says environment, but it's my wallet that makes the rules.
The fact that they're not expensive makes it easier to fly.
But environmentalists warn cheap flights have a hidden cost. The energy sector is by far the biggest polluter. Road transport comes a close second. Our factories play a major part too. Aviation accounts for just 6% of emissions today, but campaigners argue that could rise to 2/3 of all UK emissions by the middle of the century.
Aviation is the fastest growing source of carbon emissions in the UK, and bigger airports will mean more flights and more emissions and make it virtually impossible for us to meet our long-term climate targets.
But for now, there's little sign that people are willing to fly less. John Moylan, BBC News.